Is that okay? Because it's mostly the drinks here. So anyway, during the questions today, one question came up a couple of times. So it's a long time since I've given a talk on anger. It's often I give a talk on anger today, and if ever you go on the internet and you Google it, Ajahn Brahm, there's over 1,000 talks there. And I've talked about everything that can ever be talked about, including such very deep topics like Buddhism and bananas, Buddhism and coffins, Buddhism and traffic jams, which I said the other night. So just about everything you've talked about, but people forget, so we keep sometimes talking about the same subject again. But because people ask me in the question time about how to deal with anger, and it's very useful for people, especially those coming for a public talk, tonight will be how to deal with anger. And if you're really upset about this talk, then you understand what anger is. Now, one of the first things with anger, why is it that people get angry? And one reason is because there's a lot of joy in getting angry. There's a pleasure in anger. You know what it's like? You feel really good when you get angry at somebody and you tell them what they really need to know. And people get high when they get angry. They become alive. They've got some meaning to their existence. That is one of the problems with it. Because people see the delight in anger, and they get off on it. It becomes like a high, like a pleasure. But the problem is, it's not only a pleasure in getting angry, in telling somebody off. There's also the danger in it as well. The downside. The fact that afterwards you're going to have to pay for that when you get angry. And that is the problem there. Usually the benefits of anger are outweighed by the bad results of getting angry. Not only with your health, but also just with your physical health, also your emotional health, and the fact you lose your reputation, become an impossible person to work with or to live with. And also you find that the reason why you get angry, trying to sort of change people, it doesn't work. They don't change with anger. If you are a boss at work and you shout at your people who work for you, or you get angry at them, yes, they behave when you're there, but as soon as you're gone, it's business back to normal again. So that's one of the problems there. Anger doesn't work. Anger has many, many sort of bad side effects, and therefore it's not worth doing. So, first of all, to stop being angry, you have to focus on the bad side effects, first of all, and especially on your health. Because research has shown many, many times that when you get angry, when you get negative, your blood vessels contract. They get smaller and smaller. But when you're happy, when you're kind, when you laugh, your blood vessels expand. So, if you're happy, kind, considerate, laugh a lot, you get very big blood vessels. And because you get very, very big blood vessels, like my blood vessels, because I'm so happy because I laugh a lot, my blood vessels are so big, they're so wide, which is one of the reasons why I can eat fish and chips, like I did for lunch today. And I don't have to worry about the cholesterol and other oil. Because my blood vessels are so wide, anything can pass through. But if you like, delicious oily food with lots of cholesterol, and you're angry, you've got small blood vessels, you've got lots of gut going through, you're going to have a stroke or a heart attack. So anyone who is overweight, don't get angry. It will kill you. But if you are overweight and you laugh and are happy, then you're fine. It's like me. Have you ever noticed there was something which always, I'm not concerned with, always, I wondered why it was so, that fat people are always happy. It's true. If you meet a fat person, they're usually very jolly, they're very happy, they very rarely get angry. Thin people get angry, but fat people don't. And fat, happy people live a long time. For example, Santa Claus. He's fat, he's very happy, and he was old when I was young. He's lived a long life. And the reason is because if you're fat, and if you're happy, yeah, you get lots of stuff going through your blood vessels, but the blood vessels are so wide, so it can all go through. But if you are angry and fat, you die very early on, which is why the only fat people left are the happy ones. The fat, miserable ones died a long time ago. It's the same with you. If you are fat, a bit overweight, and get angry, you're dead. So when you get angry, you get more chance of getting cardiac arrest or strokes. Let alone you can feel the tension and the tightness in the body when you get angry. And you find that the body can't last very long if you get angry like that. The blood pressure goes up, and the blood vessels dilate as well. So blood vessels contract, you're in big trouble getting angry. You're going to kill yourself. So anger is a danger to your health. So remember that too. And it is also a danger to your emotional health. How many people like going out with someone who gets angry? Like having a friend who always tells you off and gets angry. No one likes angry people. And in fact, the Buddha said, if you get angry, and angry a lot, you become ugly. He says, like you look like a monster when you get angry, and in your next life, so the anger will get stuck, and you look like a monster in your next life too. But if you are kind, aren't kind people beautiful? I tell this to people, that the young girls, young boys trying to find a partner in life, you get angry and you look like a monster. No one likes to go out with a monster. And the best makeup for a young girl is her smile. Honestly, that makes you more attractive than anything else. A happy, engaging smile. That's the best makeup. If you get angry, you know you've lost your beauty. Which is one of the reasons why there was an old Zen story about a young woman, and she was always getting angry. So angry that she felt ashamed. And she went to her monk and said, "Monk, I always get angry, but I can't stop getting angry. I wanted to stop getting angry. How can I stop getting angry?" And the monk gave her a little mirror and said, "Carry this around with you wherever you go. And the next time you'll get angry, remember, take the mirror outside from your pocket, put it in front of your face." And of course that's what she did. The next time she got angry, she remembered to take the mirror out, put it in front of her face. Ah! She was so scared of what she looked like. She was like a monster. And girls don't like to look like that. They like to look beautiful. So just seeing what she looked like when she got angry was enough to help her start letting go of the reasons for anger. See what you look like. As I said this afternoon, if someone has a problem, say with alcohol or with anger, they're always shouting at you, take a photo of them when they're angry and show it to them. Even men look so frightening, so ugly, like monsters, not like human beings anymore when they get angry. But the thing is, we don't notice that. We don't notice when we're angry what it's doing to us. When you get angry, all you think about is the person you're getting angry at. You want to hurt them, you want to scare them, you want to control them. You never realize what anger is doing to you. That's why they say anger is like picking up a hot coal and throwing it at someone. Sometimes you hit them, sometimes you miss. But what is certain that you always get burnt. So you get angry at somebody, they may accept it, they may refuse to accept it, but you always get burnt. The trouble is we never look at ourselves when we're getting angry. We're always looking at the object of our anger. So when we realize how much it hurts us, take a photo of someone when they're angry, post it on Facebook, let them see, let other people see what they look like when they get angry. And no amount of makeup can actually hide the ugliness of someone who is angry. So these are ways of seeing that it's not worth your while. You get sick, you get ugly, they don't know what it does to other people. You don't get people to do what you want with anger. Shouting at them just means they don't want to help you anymore. You're a whole person. Kindness is the source of harmony. It gets people on side and they want to help you. When you're kind to them. Am I kind to you? Would you like to help me? Of course you do. But if I'm angry, sit up straight, be quiet. Of course, no one likes to help you at all. In any community, it is kindness which binds people together, which makes them move in one direction, which makes them successful in life. Many years ago, I think it's the 25th anniversary of the Berlin Wall coming down this week. And just before the Berlin Wall came down, there was this man, he was a Buddhist, he migrated from West Germany to Australia. And at that time, the two most successful economies in the world were West Germany and Japan at the time. And when he came to Australia, he told me that his fellow workers said, how come the West German economy is so much better than Australia? You must work very hard in West Germany. He said, no, we don't work hard at all. I have to work much harder since moving to Australia. Well, how come the economy is so good? And this German, he was only just becoming competent in English. He said, in Australia, we work like this, against each other. He said, in West Germany, we work like this, together, we cooperate. And you find cooperation is a much better way of success than actually competition. Competition is anger. Working together in harmony is kindness. You find that with compassion you get much more out of people when you are compassionate. But how do you get to that compassionate, successful place in your life? There was this one story of a Sri Lankan man. He was an engineer. And he was working in the Department of Minerals and Energy in Perth. And he was what we call a Wesak Buddhist, which means he only comes to the temple on Wesak, that's all. No other time of the year. No donations, no precepts, not doing any meditation. But once a year, he was Sri Lankan, he was a Buddhist, I'd better go to the temple. Are there any Wesak Buddhists here in KL? Yeah. So he told me that he had a boss from hell. And I think you all know what a boss from hell means. They're always angry at you, always shouting at you to do more work. And even if you really put extra hours in your work, you really try hard, you give it everything you've got, even then it's not good enough. Too late, do more, do it quicker. And And so this was a boss who just could not be pleased at all, was always getting angry. He was so upset, he was really considering of changing his job or moving department or something to get away from this really angry boss. But in the space of 3 months, the boss changed completely. He became really kind and considerate and encouraging. Instead of shouting at him for not doing it on time, he said, "Oh, I know how difficult this was for you. Thank you for doing it for me." And that made this man work even harder for the boss. When he was kind and compassionate, he wanted to do more. But he couldn't help but ask his boss what made him change. It was very quickly from being a very angry man to a very kind human being. And he got actually more out of his staff when he was kind. But what changed him? And the boss said he realized his anger was a problem, causing all sorts of physical defects and problems. And his doctor had advised him to go and learn some meditation. He said, "I found this beautiful temple close by with this English monk called Ajahn Brahm. And I've been going there for the last 3 months. And this Sri Lankan," he said, "that's my temple." But he never got there except to do the wayside. He never realized just what was being taught in that place. And the meditation and good advice. And when he saw in his own Australian hospital health how these teachings actually change you and take you from being a very angry person to being a very successful person, both health-wise, emotional-wise, and also work-wise, he started coming. Now he comes every week. That was how he found out, by seeing somebody else who was very angry and stop being angry. So how can we stop this anger inside of us? Now I gave one clue this afternoon, and it's called lowering your expectations. And to emphasize that, there's something which I call the 70% rule. Now this came about when I was a school teacher. For 1 year I taught in a high school, taught teenagers in England. Not like in Malaysia where you have discipline. Because one of the reasons why I thought I might as well become a monk. Teaching teenagers for 1 year was enough to make anyone think about leaving the world. So, I had to set my first examination in mathematics. It wasn't like an important exam for 13-year-olds or 14-year-olds at the end of the year. No, it wasn't actually earlier, it was at the end of the term, first term. I've never set an exam before, so I asked the senior teacher for advice. He gave this very beautiful advice. He said, "Do not set the exam too easy. If everybody gets 95% or 100%, the exam's got no use at all. It's a waste of time, it's too easy. But also, don't set it too hard. Because if people in your class get 40% or 45%, they'll come away thinking that maths is too difficult. And they'll lose their confidence they can do maths. And they'll give it up for some other subject. So he said, please aim for 70% average score. 70% is good, it means you can do maths. You come away thinking, oh, that's okay, I'm good at maths. But the 30% where they make mistakes, that's where I, as their teacher, can actually find out what they haven't understood. Find out their weak points. So in the next few lessons, I can focus on their weak points. And that means they can improve. So that was the 70% rule. And I realized it's not just for setting an examination in school. That's a good rule for life. If you always score 95% or 100% in life, always successful in life, you have a wonderful time and you don't learn anything. If you only score 45% in life or 40% in life, too many failures, not enough success, then also you'll get depressed. You'll think, I can't do life, I'm hopeless. You'll lose your self-esteem. But if you get 70% in life, it's a really good score. And the 30% where you make mistakes, where things go wrong, the 30% where you suffer, that is where you learn. That is where you find your weak points in life and learn to do better next time. So I always say that the 70% rule shows you how to live your life. 70% success, but please have 30% failure. Otherwise you will never learn, you will never grow. So if you've got a husband who's only 70%, keep him. If you've got a wife who's 100%, get rid of her. So what that does, it lowers your expectations of life. People always want life to be perfect. Always want our partners to be perfect. Always want your husband to understand you. He'll understand you 70% of the time, but not all the time. You don't even understand yourself 100% of your time. How can you expect a partner to understand you? 70% is pretty good. And the 30% where mistakes are made, that is the area where you grow and improve. But we demand 80%, 90%, 100%. That is why we get angry. We're asking from life something that He can never give us. And that means we get frustrated because too high expectations. And after frustration, we get angry and upset. Because we're asking from life something He can never give us. Just like that story one day in Australia, we were driving along on the big highway. It was very hot, 40 degrees. We didn't have an aircon in our car, so we had the windows down. And we got stopped at the red traffic lights, and I was in the passenger seat, so just a couple of feet away was the driver of another car. He also had his window down because of the heat, so I could hear everything he was saying. He too had got stopped at the red traffic light. He was getting angry. Angry in the traffic light. He was saying something like, "You stupid traffic light, why did you have to turn red? You knew I was in a rush, you knew I had an appointment to make, and you changed right now. This is not the first time you've done this. You did this last time I was in a rush. You saw me coming, didn't you? You stupid bad traffic light." He was getting angry at a traffic light. Isn't that stupid? Traffic lights have not got consciousness. They haven't got ears, they haven't got a clue what you're saying. So why are you getting angry at them? Is that stupid? How many of you have got angry at your computer? Stupid computer crashing. It's not your computer's fault. You press the wrong button, that's what computers do. How many of you got angry at your wife? She's done nothing wrong, that's what wives are like. Just like that's what traffic lights are like. It's amazing, just as a monk, because I know I've got objectivity, because I'm not mad, I know everything about wives. And I'll let you into a secret. All you guys, all wives, they're all the same. Different chassis, but the engine is the same inside. It's true. So those of you guys who think, I'm going to get rid of this wife and get a new model, it's more of the same. It's not worth it. You might as well stick to the one you've got. Get another one, the same again. Same with wives as well. Wives, husbands as well. Husbands, men are all the same. So stick with the one you've got. It's much cheaper. So why do we get angry at this? Because we expect them to be different. We expect them to give us something they just cannot give. Sometimes people get angry at dogs for barking in the middle of the night. What do you expect a dog to do? That's what dogs do, they go woof woof. What do cats do? Go meow meow. I don't know if you heard the story of the dog who applied for a job in the KL branch of the United Nations. Because the United Nations has a policy of non-discrimination. They can't discriminate between old people and young people, between religions or between genders. And they took that even further, non-discriminatory. If an animal can do the job, it gets given the job. So this dog applied for a secretary job. So they can't just dismiss it because it's a dog, that's discrimination. So they told the dog, now can you write a letter? So the dog got on the keyboard and pressed the boot up the computer button. It's amazing, just with his paw, how he can use the mouse and he typed a perfect letter up. It was amazing. So they said, well, next thing you have to do a spreadsheet. So he got up there and opened up Excel and did a beautiful spreadsheet. Very smart dog. They said, because it's the United Nations, dog, you have to speak a second language. So the dog went, meow, meow. Right, so that's what dogs do, that's what wives do, that's what husbands do, that's what traffic lights do, that's what computers do. Why get angry? Because things just do what they're programmed to do. It's because we expect them to be different. So if you lower your expectation of computers, if you lower your expectation of traffic lights and get real, if you lower your expectation of your children, this is what kids do. It's amazing just how many people want their children to be intelligent. I think I said in the first talk I gave on a Friday evening here, only half of your children will be above average intelligence. Only half of your children will be above average intelligence. That's what average means. Half will be below average intelligence, but not my kids. So you try and force your children to be something they're not, which they cannot be. And don't worry if your child is slow at school. Please remember, don't get angry with him or her if they keep failing the exams. Because this is a story I heard when I was a young monk in Thailand about this boy. He went to grade 1 in a Thai school, and after 1 year in grade 1, his teacher had to fail him. I don't know how anyone can fail grade 1. Maybe crayons, he failed crayons, or drawing. But he was so, intellectually challenged that he had to repeat grade 1. All his friends went into grade 2, he had to go back with a new intake. The next year, the teacher tried extra attention, failed again. Gave him one last chance. After 3 years in grade 1, he failed a 3rd time. So he got thrown out of school. Imagine how dumb that is. Grade 1, failed 3 times. Is that the fire bell, or is that my screen? It's not my screen. Oh, never mind. So 3 times you failed grade 1. So what do you do when somebody fails in Thailand? You send them to a monastery and make them a monk. But not all monks started out like that. So they sent him to one of these village monasteries, and the abbot there was so patient, so kind. He gave him extra attention. So try and learn the chanting. Simple chanting, like Namo Tassa. He got to Namo, what's the next word? Tassa, oh yeah, Tassa, what was the first word? And even the patient was tested, and after a year or two, the monk said, I can't deal with this monk anymore, this little novice monk. So they sent him to the last resort, which was the forest monastery, where you don't have to do any chanting. They sent him to a forest monastery, and the teacher there gave him a simple instruction in meditation. His mind was so simple, so empty, he soon became enlightened. And he became a famous teacher in Thailand. And we asked him, so how, because all the monks have to do some chanting. You know how he did his chanting? He used his great sort of meditation, because he had such a simple mind. He could record a previous life when he had learned the chanting. And he used that memory from the previous life to transfer the chant into this life, so he could chant perfectly by sort of contacting his previous life. That's the only way he can chant. So if you've got a kid at school who's really not doing well at school, he may be the next Arhat. Or a girl who keeps failing. She could be a great nun, a bhikkhuni. What we're saying here is, don't judge people just because how they do at school. There's much more to life than school and university. So don't get angry at your kid if they don't fit what other people do. They can be amazing kids in other areas of their lives. So don't get angry at them for so-called failing. If you do, you take away their self-esteem. There's other things they can do in life. Life is very wide and broad. And many people who left school, Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, Dell Computing, they never finished their degrees. And look at them, geniuses. So if your son or daughter drops out of university, that could be the next founder of a multi-billion-dollar industry. Wow. I shouldn't say there's any kids in here, there's a few kids in here. Another true story. It's lovely having these true stories. There's one of the monk's friends. He was one of these kids who always loved playing computer games. Play computer games, and so never did much at school. But was really good at computer games. His mum told him, sort of, look, you have to pass your exams. He was so stubborn, no. So what he did, he made up his own computer game. Now he's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't have to go to school anymore. Because he's a multi-millionaire, making up his own. So if your kid spends too much time on the computer, playing computer games, tell him you've got 1 year to make a few $1 million, otherwise you have to go back to school. So sometimes you don't know how kids evolve in this life. So sometimes, don't get angry at them. Support them. Encourage them instead of getting angry. So, when we expect something of our kids, or we expect something of our mother and father, of our spouse in life, because we expect too much, we get disappointed. And disappointment is the seed from which anger grows. So the opposite of that is just being kind and encouraging. As I said, in a business, if you get angry, you don't get as much productivity. But if you're kind, people want to work. They're encouraged to work. And you actually get far more productivity when you are kind. I've given a lot of talks at business schools, and I like mentioning a piece of news somebody sent me because it was interesting about an engineering firm in the UK. I think it was in Birmingham. And this firm, they won this engineering business prize for innovation in the industry. Because in 1 year, in 12 months, they doubled profits, they trebled turnover. Just with a very simple change They banned all overtime. No one was allowed to work beyond their assigned hours, nor could they take any work home. And then everyone became more productive. That simple bit of kindness. Now think about it. How would they become more productive? Number one, they weren't getting stressed out from working way beyond their limitations. They could go home at the correct time and spend time with their wife, with their husband, with their children. They had a much richer family life. They could rest at night, which means when they went to work in the morning, they weren't worried about their family problems, they weren't worried about their marriage, they had rested, which meant they were far more productive. In the lesser hours they were working, they could get more done. You push people at work, they do the hours, but productivity goes down because they're tired. Then family life gets ruined, so they're not having got the nurture, being able to rest and enjoy the company of their family. They're just too busy and too tired. So you can see what happens is banning overtime made all the workers more rested and more productive. And even better, because this company was being wise and kind to the workers, nobody wanted to leave. Staff turnover went to zero. No one wanted to leave because it was a really nice company to work for. And anyone in business knows that when, especially key persons leave, it takes 6 to 9 months to train up somebody to know the customers, the suppliers, to know the job at the same level as the person who's left. It really hurts a company's bottom line when key people leave. So keeping them there with job satisfaction, overtime was banned, meant no staff turnover, which was also why their profits doubled in just 1 year. There's a great example of how simple acts of kindness, rather than trying to force people to work harder through anger, made the company incredibly profitable. Now you can transfer that to a school, you can transfer that to your business, you can transfer that to your family, you can transfer that to the monastery where I live. You ask any of the monks who who've been trained at my monastery, I never shout at them, I never get angry, I never scold them. Instead, I encourage them with kindness rather than anger. You get far more out of it. An example, back to business again. One of my followers in Sydney, her name is Julie. She started her own fashion business in Sydney from scratch, working her way up from just supplying a few boutiques to being a major supplier. But her big break came when she was negotiating a deal with a big outlet in London. She lived in Sydney. And she told me that she got an email from the company over in London saying, come over as soon as you can, we are ready to sign the contract. This was worth quite a few million. She had a small daughter called Holly, only 4 or 5 years of age at the time. Those of you women who've had children, those of you who are mothers, know how hard it is to leave a young daughter and travel to the other side of the world. But she had a very, very supportive husband. So it wasn't too hard for her to leave her little baby Holly in Sydney while she got on the first available flight to go to London. When she arrived in London, she only had time to check into her hotel, have a shower and change. Without any rest, she turned up at the offices of this company. She went into the boardroom. All the directors were there, but not the CEO. He hadn't arrived yet. And the director said, you have wasted your time. There is no way that this director, our CEO, is going to sign your contract. He's in such a bad mood today. He's really angry. He's really upset. No way is he going to sign your contract. You might as well get on the plane and go back to Sydney. And this Julie said, I've travelled all this way. At least I'm going to see this man. Suit yourself, they said to her. So she went into a corner of the boardroom, sat down, crossed her legs, and started meditating. She did her loving kindness meditation. She'd only been cross-legged and meditating for about 10 minutes when the CEO came in. Who's that? What is she doing in my boardroom? What the heck does she think she is? Get out! Was that convincing? I really tried my best. Actually, I enjoy telling this story because I'm not allowed to get angry. So I asked I can pretend. But anyway, he was a monster, big, red-eyed. And Julie, she'd just been doing her loving kindness meditation. So she opened her eyes and stood up and walked towards this monster who was almost about to bite her head off. And she told me the story. She said this was not premeditated, just the words tumbled out of her mouth. As she looked this monster, this anger, demon of her CEO, she looked him in the eyes and noticed he had blue eyes and said to him, you have such beautiful blue eyes, like my baby Holly back in Sydney. And that's not what you expect when you just shout at somebody. And this CEO, he just did not know what to make of somebody being kind to him when he'd been shouting at him. It was like his brain fused. And it was silent for about 1 minute, or maybe 1.5 minutes. And his face softened up. He said to Julie, really? I have beautiful blue eyes? And she had her contract signed in the next 5 minutes. No questions asked. And she was about to take her contract signed back to the hotel to get a rest. She hadn't slept on this long flight. But the directors would not let her go. They encircled her. They said, we are not letting you out of this boardroom until you teach us how you did that. How you can take anger and turn it completely around and get your contract signed. It's amazing, just if you know a bit of kindness, it's easy to stop people's anger. My own story about that, which was in Opening of Your Heart, was when we were opening our temple in Perth. And we invited the governor of Western Australia, this really important guy. Actually, on that story, this is on that sort of subject. About 2 months ago, we had the first Buddhist elected as a governor in one of the states of Australia, in South Australia. There was a Vietnamese refugee man. And he told this very wonderful story that he was a Vietnamese refugee who came over in a boat, risking everything to get to some sense of freedom. So most of the boat people in those days, they perished at sea. Only a few made it. He was one of them. And he said when the first Australians he met, as his boat came close to land, he saw a couple of Australian fishermen. These Australian fishermen took one look at these poor refugees and shouted out to them, "Welcome to Australia, mate. Have a beer." And he remembers that kindness when he first came in. And from that point of coming with nothing, repaying the kindness, working really hard, helping community. He'd done such a great job, in his own business and serving others. They decided he deserves to be the head of state for that South Australia. The head person. That's a beautiful little story. But anyway, where was I going with this? In the story of... Sorry? Opening the temple, yeah. We invited the governor of Western Australia to open the temple. And I had the job of organising all the chairs and the marquee for the guests. Now, as much, we do the admin work as well. So I called up the best hire company in Perth. We had VIPs going. The governor, the head of state. We wanted to make a big impression. So I got the best company because the treasurer said, don't worry about the expense, get the best. So I told the manager of this company, a girl, a woman, we want the very best. I said, okay, we don't mind paying for it, okay. So when all of the chairs for the guests and the marquee came, I was busy helping somebody else. I never saw them upload. I checked on them afterwards. And you couldn't believe how dirty the marquee was. So we got out a hose and hosed it down. The chairs were all dusty as well, but we could wipe the chairs down. But the problem was the chairs we had for the VIPs, the special chairs. And there's no exaggeration, this is 100% true, about a dozen chairs. And not one of those chairs had legs the same length. They all wobbled. And that was too much. I can't have the VIPs, the governors and politicians falling off their chairs during our talk. So I quickly got to the telephone, called up the hire company, and I just called them as they were finishing work for the week on a Friday evening. I said, do you remember I asked for the very best? But we cleaned up the tent, we cleaned up the chairs, but these VIP chairs, we can't accept them, you have to change them. It was late on a Friday afternoon. In Australia, when they knock off work, they knock off work. And she said, I will fix it. What she had to do, she had to go to the pub where all the workers had finished for the week and were drinking. And she told them, get back to work. The Buddhists need their chairs changed. So did they do that happily? No way. They were so angry. They were so incensed that when the truck came, the lorry came, the lorry was still going about 30 kilometers an hour. And one of the men jumped out and came running up to us. Where's the broken charge? I want the broken charge. And I went up to him and said, I am the bloke in charge. This great big one, he got no fear, you know exactly what you're doing. And this guy, he, absolutely no exaggeration, put his fist as far from my nose. And his eyes were red, he'd been drinking. And the breath, I've never actually taken in so much alcohol in my life from his breath. And at the time, there were maybe 100 people helping to organise a place for the big event. Did they help me? No, they were looking at what's going to happen next. Thank you, friends. I didn't need any help. He had his nose up here, ready to punch me. And all I did was just be peaceful, be kind. And it was one of the memorable experiences of my life. He was so angry and ready to fight. I was just so peaceful. And I knew immediately I had full control over him. He couldn't go further. He couldn't go back. Because I was not playing according to the usual rules. Put your hand, yeah, you and who else? Yeah. Then you have a fight. But I wasn't complaining at all. I was just being peaceful, looking at him in the eye. And he was stuck there. I had him as long as I wanted. He couldn't punch me, he couldn't walk away. In those maybe 5 minutes, the lorry and the truck had parked, and one of the men came out, put his hand on the man's shoulder. Come on, we'll unload the chairs. I said, yes, I'll help you. We unloaded them together. It's amazing when you don't get afraid or angry back when someone gets angry. You are invulnerable. They can't hurt you. It's amazing how you deal with other people's anger. You don't accept it, you don't reject it, you're at peace with it. And that just softens it, drains all that ill will away. So when someone gets angry at you, again, don't get upset. If they're getting angry, they're the ones who're being stupid, not you. So don't take it personally. Don't get demeaned by people's anger. Just be at peace with it. One of the stories, anger is like people throwing dung all over you, or throwing dirt over you. And there's this wonderful story of the, of the politician who was walking in the forest one day when he fell into a well. And when he fell into that well, it was a dry well. So he didn't injure himself, but he couldn't climb out. And because the last time you heard the story, it was a donkey. But I like changing these stories. This time it's a politician. And he fell into the bottom of the well. And he couldn't climb out, so he shouted for help. Help, help, help! He shouted for over an hour. But politicians are used to shouting, and they can shout for hours and hours and hours. Now once I was staying in a monastery in Colombo, and I was trying to meditate there, and there was sort of like a crazy person was ranting on, shouting and shouting for over an hour. And I asked the abbot at the temple, what was that? He said, that was a politician. I thought it was a crazy person. I couldn't understand Sinhala. That was what was going on. And anyway, the politician was in the bottom of the well. Help, help, help! And eventually someone found him. And they looked into the well, and there at the bottom of the well was a politician. He said, help me, help me. And the fellow said, no, why should I? You've been selfish, you've been corrupt, you've never helped anybody, serves you right. It's karma, falling at the bottom of the well. And who am I to interfere with karma? He said, look, save me, help me. And this farmer who saw the politician at the bottom of the well thought, actually, it's a great act of compassion to relieve all the people from this corrupt, selfish politician. And it's also an act of compassion to fill in the well so no one else falls into it. So he decided to do both at the same time. He got out of Spain and started filling in the well. And this politician, instead of being helped, had all this stuff, all this dirt thrown over him. And he really got angry. And shouting and shouting and shouting, what are you doing, man? You're killing me, that's evil, that's bad. And that just encouraged the farmer to throw more dirt into the well. And soon, the politician became quiet. He thought, I must have killed him. Because that's the only way the politicians could shut up. Dead. So, he carried on shoveling earth, but he didn't realize what was happening. The politician had figured out that anger is not the right way of dealing with such a problem when somebody throws dirt all over you. Instead, the next shovelful of dirt over the politician, he just shrugged it off and stamped it in under his feet. He noticed he was 1 centimetre higher. Another shovelful of dirt, shrugged it off, stamped it in, another centimetre higher. And the farmer, thinking he had killed the politician, didn't realise when a bald head appeared, not a monk, The politicians are hot devil too. Appeared above the top of the well. And soon the politician was high enough, another shovelful of earth, stamped it in, another centimetre higher. And soon the politician was high enough, he could jump out of the well and escape. And he said, the tax inspector, occupational health and safety, and the agricultural department to check on that farmer as his calming reward for trying to kill him. So, the moral of that story is when somebody abuses you, they call you bad names, they accuse you of things you've never done, they throw dirt all over you. Don't get angry back. Stamp it in, shrug it off, stamp it in, and you become a little bit higher. It's a very beautiful little story of don't give anger back when you're angry. Now, before I get, oops, already too late, how to overcome anger. That's what I'm supposed to be talking about all the time. How to overcome anger. See if you can catch it early. Because anger doesn't come from nowhere, it builds up. You get frustrated, you get disappointed because you have expectations which are way beyond what the world can give you. It builds up until it takes on a life by itself and you get angry. If you can stop it early, it's very easy to stop. Just like a big tree, sometimes you need bulldozers and dynamite to remove the tree. But if you can catch it when it's very small, you pick it up, when it's a small sapling, you pick it up with your fingers and put it out of the ground. If you try and put the brakes on a train, on the KLIA Express, if it's going at 120 kilometers an hour, and you try and put the brakes on, it takes a kilometer or two to stop. It's hard when it's going so fast, but if you can stop it early, when it's just leaving the station, you can stop it immediately. If you can catch your anger when it's just leaving the station, it's very easy to stop and take another route. But if you let it develop too long, it's so much momentum you can hardly stop it. So this is one of the reasons why we use our mindfulness, our awareness, to catch these habits earlier and earlier and earlier. When we catch them earlier, it's very easy to take another route. Not the route of anger, but another route. Sometimes when somebody always triggers your anger, just go and just avoid them. If it's some situation which makes you angry, just go to the bathroom and do the two-finger sign. You know the two-finger sign? In front of the mirror, two fingers. Pat yourself. Change your attitude. When you laugh, it's very hard to get angry when you're laughing, when you're happy. Which is one of the other ways of avoiding anger. The more tired you are, as I said earlier, the more weak you are, the easier it is to get angry. When you're rested, when you're happy, when you've got a good attitude, it's really hard to make a person angry. So when you get tired, frustrated, it builds and builds and builds. You're so weak, it's very easy to make you upset. So see if you can rest more, have a different attitude, don't expect much in life, and then you find it so hard to get angry. The last little story was an old story from Greek philosophy. In that particular story from Greek philosophy, there was a teacher, and his particular teaching method, in those days, one teacher would teach the students everything. Astronomy, maths, and obviously Greek, politics, argument, which was important in those days. And so in this academy, once you graduated to one teacher, you learned so much. But this particular teacher, he had this idiosyncrasy, this special teaching method. If any teacher misbehaved, so say any student misbehaved, and the teacher scolded him and shouted at him and got angry at him, he would charge the student $3. Extra work getting angry at somebody, It was extra for the teacher when you scolded somebody. So the person who was shouted at, the student made a mistake, and the teacher shouted at him, had to pay $3 to the teacher every time he was shouted at. Teacher's fee. Extra work for the teacher. So he had to pay $3. And that was how this teacher would run his academy. And one of his students, once he graduated, went to work in Athens. And every time his boss shouted at the student would only laugh. He would never get angry. And it was so weird to see someone who was shouted at laugh instead of getting angry. His fellow workers said, "How can you laugh when the boss shouts at you?" He said, "Because where I studied in the academy, every time my teacher shouted at me, I had to pay $3. Now I don't have to pay anything at all. It's for free. That's why I laugh." There's a nice little story there. So if you have children, every time you scold them and get angry at them, charge them for it. Take $3 out of their allowance or whatever. So that when they go into the real world after work and people shout at them, they don't get angry. Now they don't have to pay. So that's actually some ways of how you can stop being angry. And don't respond to anger, don't get angry back. Just learn how to be peaceful. And then the person, they just basically won't get angry at you anymore. It's a waste of time. They don't get anything out of it. So anyway, I've gone on for too long. So any questions or comments? Is anybody angry at my talk? Aww. Okay. So, are these new questions or old questions here? I've got some new questions here. I'll do some questions in the box, and then we'll be open up for questions from the floor. Here we go. Our meditation question, first of all. When I meditate, sometimes I get flashes of happening of someone I know. Split seconds. I wonder if it is my imagination or psychic power. Sorry, imagination. So don't worry about it, just let that one go. You have to be very powerful to get deep meditation to get psychic powers. Dear Ajahn Brahm, how do you silent mind to meet evil with kindness? The silent mind, I mentioned this earlier, if somebody gets angry at you, they shout at you, maybe your wife, maybe your husband, maybe your boss, when they finish shouting at you, be silent. Give the 5-second pause. Because they're waiting for you to respond. They're not hearing anything. So instead, they can hear what they've just said to you. They can feel the tension and tightness in their body. They can feel the pain of having been angry at somebody. And they can reflect on what they've said. So the 5-second silence after someone's been angry at you gives them an opportunity to reflect on what they've done. And sometimes that's enough for them to say, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And so, evil, there's no such thing as evil in Buddhism. It's called stupidity. When people do mean things to others because they're stupid. Their goal is to, I'm not sure, make the company better and to solve their problems, to solve the world's problems. They're doing it in a stupid way which doesn't work. So if there is someone acting stupidly, they're acting in a way which is going to make more problems in the world, then the kindness, the best kindness is give them a mirror to reflect on what they're doing. If you tell them off and get angry back, they don't look at themselves, they look at you. You need to sort of give them the opportunity to be mindful, to be aware of what they've just been doing, to realise for themselves they're acting in a bad way. But don't give them anger back, give them kindness. I always remember sort of Gandhi in India. He managed to push out the British Empire, my ancestors, when it was at the height of its power. And he didn't do it with violence. It was an incredible achievement. With non-violence, with kindness and primality, he defeated an empire. And the British just literally walked out of India. It's an incredible achievement. He never achieved that with violence. So he didn't give anger to the oppressors. He gave something else that was far more potent. That's how we look at evil or stupidity. How can children repay the wrong things that parents do? For example, not following the 5 precepts in life. Can children bear the consequences on behalf of the parents? Personal story. Growing up, my father never mentioned his father, my paternal grandfather, for years. Now, my father came from Liverpool. My grandparents, paternal grandparents, they died in Liverpool during the Second World War. We thought maybe they were bombed or something. But no, actually we found out later on they died of TB. It's very poor, they were very poor people. But for years I'd ask my father, what was my grandfather like? And he would never tell me. Until one day I pressed him so hard and he looked at me and thought I was old enough to understand. And he said, your grandfather, his own father, please excuse me, this is what my father said. Your grandfather was a bastard. Wow, what was he using those words for? And then my father explained that during the Depression years, the 1920s, my grandfather had a job as a plumber, but whatever money he earned, he drank in the pub. He was an alcoholic. When he came home, he took off his belt, and any kid who was anywhere near would receive a thrashing, and then he would start on his wife, my father's mother. My father had witnessed that abuse and felt the end of the leather belt on his flesh so many times. It was domestic abuse. So those are the wrong things my grandfather did to my father. But my father then told me, he said, when I was on the end of those undeserved beatings, when I saw my mother being beaten for nothing because my father was broken, I made a vow, I made a promise. If I survive, if I have kids, I will never treat them like that. I was his kid. He couldn't spank me. He tried a couple of times, but his heart wasn't in it. He'd take a step and just touch you, and that's about as far as he could go. Because he remembered what he received. And he didn't repay what he received, the abuse. He actually learned from it. He learned what it's like when you get a drunken father, and he didn't want to be that person himself. If you've been a victim of abuse, or your parents have not behaved well, you have a choice. To learn from it, or to be a victim of it. My father decided to learn from it and become this incredible, wonderful person who's what we start saying is how to open the door of your heart. And when I was a kid, one of the other things I remember him doing, teaching me about the importance of not stealing. Because he told me one day, son, if you want something so badly, you're willing to steal it, before you steal it, come and see me and I'll buy it for you. And he was really poor. I remember one of my earliest memories was seeing in the little apartment we had, and £1 notes was actually on this shelf above the coal fire. And I don't know where this gust of wind came from. A gust of wind came, lifted up the £1 note and it fell in the fire. My father tried to rescue it and burned his hand. My mother started crying. The £1 was such a lot of money for them at that time because they were poor. And seeing it just float into the fire and get burnt reduced my mum to tears, and my father burnt his hand trying to sort of rescue it. And they were poor. And when my father said, even though it's poor, I'll find the money somehow, and just don't steal, I realized how important it was that I didn't steal. That's why I couldn't do it. So that's what my father taught me. And he was a victim of horrendous physical and emotional abuse by a drunken father. So, how did he repay the wrong of his father? He learned from it. This is where I get the stories of the done. The done, you can keep it in your pockets, and it stinks, or you can dig it under the mango tree and make mangoes. Delicious sweet mangoes. My father decided to dig it into his heart. Became a beautiful father. Just he couldn't hurt us. He tried to, and I deserved it a few times. I was a kid. There's no way he could smack me. Tried, but just couldn't do it. And because I realised that, so I can't have it like that. And I became a very good son. Not because of fear of punishment, not because of anger, because of respect, because of love. How can we get the courage to seek forgiveness? As afraid of the teasing of others, loss of ego, looking down. My goodness, they get so proud of you. You raise up in other people's estimation if you can just say sorry for the things you've done. I made a mistake, sorry. It's wonderful if you can say sorry. And other people, as a result, you're not lessened in their eyes. You actually become a hero. You say, wow, if only I could do that. You're teaching others the importance of not being perfect. So you can say sorry for the things you've done, but keeping in perspective. Yeah, you made a mistake. Ask forgiveness. But what about all the amazing, wonderful things you've done? Keep them in mind as well. So you don't feel you have low self-esteem. So 70% of the time you get it right, remember that, praise yourself. The 30% of the time you get it wrong, ask forgiveness and learn from it. And others, they don't, so look down upon you. The third question, the easy one, how to find the meaning of life, is come to see Ajahn Brahm's talks. Look at the internet, go to the temple. That's where you find the meaning of life. Don't go on Wikipedia and Google it, meaning of life. You don't find it there, you don't find it in the universities. You find it in temples and in meditation. What is the meaning of life? It's learning how to be content. Learn to be so happy you don't need anything anymore. You come to the end. Content. Everything you ever wanted, now you have. How do you get rid of useless habits? It's not really like taking drugs, etc. It's just something I will do like after taking a bath, or maybe after locking a car, I need to check and double check and triple check. The habit has been in my family since my aunt, my sister, my mum and me. Can you please overcome how to overcome it? When you lock your car, get out your mobile phone, take a picture of it. So you can check your mobile phone instead of your car. It's all about fear. You were so afraid of what would happen if you don't lock your car. One of our trainee monks, he was taking me into town, in the middle of the town. He left the car door open with the keys in the car, in the ignition, in the middle of the day, in a sort of a poor part of Perth. So when we finished our business, he said, where's my keys? I can't find the car keys. I went over to the car, I said, the door's open, the keys already in the ignition. You left it there for an hour. So a lot of times you're afraid of things, but they hardly ever happen. So don't be afraid of things. When you look into the future, don't worry. Oh, is the car door locked? No, it's not locked, so what? And especially if you've got an old car and you want to get a new one, and you've got good insurance, you don't want. So you might take it, you've got enough money now to get a new one. If you don't lock the door of your house, just put a sign outside, burglars this way. So you can get rid of your old computer and upgrade with a new one because it's a big stubby getting the insurance. I always like to look on the positive side of things. So when you look at the negative side of things, that's why you'd be afraid. That's why you always be checking and double checking and triple checking. So see if you can understand what are you afraid of. And if you lose things, you can always get a new one. Where does the line between attachment and love for family members fall? The difference between attachment and love is where you can let somebody go out of love. You can let your children go off to, say, New York to work, or they marry someone from England. They go and live in London, and you let them go. You love them so much that as long as they're happy, you are happy, even though they're a long way away. So that's the difference between attachment and love. Attachment, you always want them close. You always want them there. So that's attachment. Love, the greatest act of love is to let somebody go. Sometimes you realize that when, say, your mother or father is so old, they're about to die. How do you feel? If you're by the bedside, you say, Mom, don't go, don't leave us. That's attachment. If you really love your parents, or say maybe your mum, and she's dying, you can say to her, Mum, I love you so much, I want you to be happy, I give you permission to go. You can die. That's the love of letting go. If it's, I don't want you to go, please Mum, don't go, don't die. That's attachment. It's not love. You want your parents around. And those parents, their body is old, is weak, is suffering. Why do you keep them alive? Why can't you give them permission to die? The first time I saw this, it was a young man, maybe in his 30s, had cancer. His name was Steve. His wife, I don't know again, forget it. Anyway, they caught her hand, I remember it. And anyway, Steve was a guy. And I went to counselling for a while. And he was dying. I was really surprised he hadn't died. Until one day, Jenny, her name was. Until one day I realised what was going on. He should have died a couple of days ago. He was still hanging on. So I went to their house, into their bedroom, and there was someone who's got cancer, just they look so emaciated, so thin, they don't look like the person you once knew. And I asked Jenny, I said, have you given your husband, Steve, permission to die yet? And she got it immediately. And it was one of the most beautiful little memories I have of Jenny jumping onto the bed, holding her emaciated, cancer-ridden husband, the love of her life, in her arms, looking at him, saying, Steve, I give you permission to die. I let you go. He died that night. All he needed was permission from the person he cared about so much, the last person he wanted to hurt, his wife. Once she gave him permission to go, then he died. That was love. Attachment is, don't go, don't die. That's attachment. I say that because so many times people who are sick with cancer, about to die, you make them suffer for another couple of days, or even longer, because you don't let them go. And it's incredible how powerful that is. You may have a mother or father, someone you love dearly, and they're about to die. If you can actually say to them, Mom, I love you very much. I give you permission to die. The whole family does as well. Then your mother can die in peace. She doesn't struggle to keep alive for your sakes. That's the difference between love and attachment. People have been doing that. It's beautiful to see. Your loved one is going to die soon anyway. They're just suffering in pain. Please let them go. Let them be free. I am a primary school teacher. Can you give me some tips on how to be a good teacher? How can I earn the respect of my students? It's amazing how much your students respect you anyway. Simply because you're there for them. You know, once I became a monk after I was a teacher for 1 year, the naughtiest student in my class was the only one who sent me a letter when I was a monk in Thailand. It was fascinating. He was a naughty student because he was so bright. And he was so... Sometimes he got bored when I had to dumb down the lesson for the other students. So the naughty ones, they were the intelligent ones. So the kids do respect you, but sometimes they don't show it to you. So the thing as a teacher is always to encourage your kids. Praise them when they do things well. Don't shout and criticize them when they do things poorly. One little piece of advice also. Don't look at the results from the year before if you're a school teacher. Because I did an experiment when I was a school teacher. There was one child in my class who came bottom the year before in maths. I wondered, is it a case that some children just can't do maths? That was my experiment. I wanted to find out. So this particular child, I gave him special attention. You know, during the lesson, I would walk to his desk. Did you understand that? And sometimes just point out how the maths worked. At the end of the class, anything you need to know. And I did give him special attention. And maybe that was unfair to the other kids in the class. But at the end of the year, instead of being bottom the year before, he came top of the class in maths. And I realised that's all a child needs, encouragement and confidence. You can take someone who thinks they can't do maths and take them to the top of the class. So as a teacher, your job is to encourage your kids to say you can do it, you can do whatever you want. If you believe in yourself. There's no such thing as a child who can't do music. A child who is gifted and a child who isn't. All there is a child who is confident, one who is not. So the job of a teacher is like to be one of the fans in the game of football. You shout support for your team. You don't start criticizing them. You build them up, encourage them, and then they do very well. Imagine you had a Malaysian playing Singapore at soccer. And all the Malaysians, you stupid Malaysian team. No, even my grandma can kick a ball further than you, you stupid Malaysians. And you're a Malaysian yourself. Is that going to encourage your team to do well? Obviously you build them up, you encourage them, you cheer them when they do something good. So that's what you should do if you're a teacher with your children. Encourage them, build them up, give them confidence. Then they can do whatever they like in life. Here we go, another question here. Are there any questions from the audience? I know you said you don't have to sit around or straight to meditate, but can you meditate while lying down, in the yoga, dead corpse pose? Yes, you can indeed. Especially if you want to meditate at home. Please don't meditate laying down here. Because many times when the person lays down, they fall fast asleep and they start snoring. Especially during my talk. I don't know why it is, but many people say before they go to bed at night they listen to one of my talks and they can fall fast asleep. I still don't know whether that's a compliment or a criticism. I'm just glad they can relax. So remember that when when you're very tired at night, can you lie down? You can lie down. Do some meditation, but try and lie down in a posture where you don't usually fall asleep. So if you go to sleep, say on your back, meditate on your side. Because then psychologically, your brain is thinking, this is not the position she usually falls asleep in. So that means you don't fall asleep. You stay awake. And it's very comfortable because then you can meditate really comfortable and have a nice peaceful meditation without the worry of aches and pains in your bones and in your legs and wherever. Because sometimes you're meditating a lot during the day, so you'll get very sore. So laying down is fine. Okay, those are the questions in the box. Now, any questions from the audience? Anger. Yeah, one question.
Stretch itself, Buddhism, is looked at from the negative view. But some of the experiments, for example, some of the people, they actually try this, it's one factor is under stretch. Stretch can be positivity, from a positivity.
Yes.
How does Buddhism look at?
How does Buddhism look at stress? Is stress always wrong? Or is it sometimes people thrive under stressful situations? That's a very good point. Somebody once sent me a YouTube video of a very innovative, smart side. She was a doctor in the United States. And she was wondering why it is some people in stressful jobs have cardiac problems, while some people don't have cardiac problems. They do the same amount of stress. Some people, their arteries harden, cholesterol build up, other people are fine. And she found out it's not the stress, but the attitude to the stress. If you take the stress as a challenge, rather than get negative towards it, in other words, you see something positive to this, then you don't get the build-up of cholesterol on the arteries, you don't get sort of the hardening of the arteries, you don't have cardiac problems. It's not the amount of work you do, it's not the stress of the work. It's, I don't want to do this is unfair, why do I have to do this? That negativity, that is the cause of the cardiac problems. If instead you say, yeah, I can do this is a challenge, this is pushing me, I'm going to learn so much more out of this, I'm going to grow so much out of this. This is a wonderful thing I can do for other people. If you make it a positive spin on it, then, yeah, it's the same amount of work, but you don't have the physical and emotional problems. So it's a very good question, and a very beautiful piece of research this doctor did. It's the attitude, the negativity you give to the amount of work you have to do, not the work itself. Look at me, I'm stressed out. I've been teaching all day, all week, 365 days a year. But I have a good attitude. I love doing this. As I said, I think on Friday night, if somebody says, I'm exploited at work, people use me as a doormat, that is the meaning of life, to be exploited. To be a bodhisattva. To be as compassionate as possible. Okay, any other questions? Comments?
When you deal with anger, we shouldn't respond to the anger, right? Isn't that a form of controlling your anger, which is that?
You say if you get angry, you should respond to the anger. Is that controlling or is it a letting go? Letting go is the opposite of controlling. So you can't force yourself to let go. So it's a waste of time getting angry back. But you can't force that in your mind. So this is a wise thing to do. It's what I call wisdom power rather than willpower. Wisdom shows you that getting angry back is just going to create problems. I'm not going to get angry, I refuse to get angry. Why should I allow other people to make me unhappy? Why should I allow them to steal my happiness? I will never allow anyone to control my own happiness. So they can get angry, they can shout at me, but my happiness is my concern. I don't have to let other people make me upset. So I take responsibility for my own happiness, and I refuse let other people make you happy. You get pennies. So people get angry at you, they want to upset you. If you refuse to get upset, after a while they stop getting angry at you. It's a waste of time. You say getting angry at Ajahn Brahm is like getting angry at a lamppost. Wasting your time. So this is a choice. It's not willpower. It's wisdom power. Makes sense? Any other questions before we finish off for the night? You've been here a long time. And some of you want dinner? You want dinner? You want to eat? I know Malays and Singaporeans. I did a retreat in Penang. I couldn't believe how much the Singaporeans ate. They had a big breakfast. They had lunch with me at 11 o'clock. They had morning tea, and morning tea was another meal. They had afternoon tea, and they had dinner. And after dinner, about 7 o'clock, then we did the last talk and meditation. When we finished about 9:30, they went out again to the hawker stalls. They had about 5 or 6 meals a day. Not small meals, like big meals. So anyway, you have beautiful food here in Malaysia, especially in Penang, it's famous for it. So I'm sure if you want to get something on the way home, get something delicious. Kindness. Okay, have a good night everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.